co-creating a world filled with positive possibilities while leading by example, My Power of One takes a stand for kindness. In The Wizard of One, Sue Vicory is joined by new guests in each episode to share inspiring stories and challenge the listener to continue transforming humanity one word and one act of kindness at a time. Be sure to stop by mypowerofone.com and join the movement at mypowerofone on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Hello and welcome to The Wizard of One, a magical journey of kindness. We are brought to you by My Power of One, which is mypowerofone.com, and Heartland Films, Inc. I am the host, Sue Vicory. You can find out more about either of those at suevicory.com. And today I am in the studio with Trudy Ludwig. I've had trouble pronouncing your last name, Ludwig.
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 Yes. Yeah.
I've been practicing on it. Trudy is a nationally acclaimed speaker and award-winning author of numerous children's books, including The Invisible Boy, The Power of One, and My Secret Bully. Her books and presentations help empower children to be kinder and more inclusive in their social world. Today, Trudy has collaborated with leading experts and organizations including Sesame Workshop, International Bullying Prevention Association, and Committee for Children, and ConnectSafety.org. Her upcoming books, Brave Every Day and Calling the Wind, are targeted for release by Random House Children's Books in summer and fall of 2022, respectively. For more information about Trudy, and we'll cover this again later, you can find her and her work at trudyludwig.com. TRUDYLUDWIG. Welcome, Trudy.
Well, thank you for having me.
We are going, your podcast will be live on June 29th, and I chose that date because it's your birthday. Isn't that special?
Why, thank you. Those birthdays, they come and go.
At our stage of life, we're grateful for every single one, aren't we?
Right.
All the years of our lives. I want to let you know how I found Trudy to begin with. I'm trying to figure out where to put this down so I can read it. On social media, there was a sponsored ad, I think is what it was, maybe, Trudy, that had The Power of One. And I've seen it more than once come through my stream on Facebook. And one night I clicked on it. And I'm like, what is this? And I got to you through it, The Power of One. My brand is My Power of One. And so fairly quickly after that, I reached out to you, got to your Facebook page, and I reached out to you and I said, would you be interested in being on the podcast? And we connected pretty quickly.
Right.
You looked over my situation and I looked over yours, and we decided we were aligned with our sort of life philosophies and stuff. And I'm absolutely honored to be able to speak with you today for many reasons, one of which your target audience is children.
Correct.
I would like to ask you, it sounds like you've been a writer since you were a child, perhaps yourself. Tell us a little bit about your journey, how you started, how you got supported, through the years of writing, and tell us the journey a little bit of your being an author.
Well, I forgot that I used to love writing children's stories until my sister sent me some stories she found in some filing cabinets that I had written for my parents. I'm the youngest of 6 children. And, at times we didn't have the money, to get gifts. So I would write birthday stories. And she sent some of them to me. One that I had written when I was 9 years old. I've always loved children's books. Even as an adult, I love children's books. When I had kids of my own, I had as much fun reading them and acting them out as they were listening to me and seeing the pictures. And I've always loved picture books. They're like peeling back layers of an onion. There's so many things going on with picture book stories, and I was fascinated by that. I went into the field of marketing and media, and I was a freelance writer. I was a senior copywriter at an ad agency, and I was writing about products and services that I really could care less about. And when one of my children was very young, she was having friendship issues, and it imploded on the playground during the first week of second grade. She's now 28, so this is many years ago. And, the thing that ran through my head was, what do you do when the kids who are her so-called friends are bullying her and you're friends with the kids' parents? That was an issue that I was thinking about. And at that time, Rachel Simmons came out with Odd Girl Out, which hit the newsstands, media coverage galore about this issue of what's called relational aggression. It's not a new form of aggression. It's been around since people have been around, but it was only until the mid-90s that researchers really studied this particular form of emotional bullying hidden within friendships. That's what relational aggression is. It's often been labeled as the mean girl syndrome type thing, but the research shows that boys do it as well. It's the principal form of bullying from preschool through the workplace as an adult. It's the primary form of bullying in the adult workplace. Gossiping, spreading rumors, sharing information is not yours to share, intentional exclusion. It could be offline or online. And so I realized when my daughter, back then, when she was going through this experience, I go to books to help me help my daughter. And what I noticed was there was a resource gap. And so I thought, well, why don't I try to write a story? And that's what led me to write my first book, My Secret Bully, and to also help kids understand what makes a friendship a healthy friendship. And I believe that happy endings is about also letting go of unhealthy relationships. And that's what I wanted to show, because I worry with girls in particular, they will gravitate, if they have abusive romantic partners, they may gravitate to they have abusive friendships rather when they're younger. When they're older, they can gravitate towards abusive romantic relationships. So I want them to have the understanding of what makes a healthy relationship with their peers, so that they would also gravitate to healthy partners later in life.
And what tell me about what year that was that you wrote your first book, and tell us a little bit about that process, writing, editing, getting it published, and illustrating it, all those pieces.
So the first book, My Secret Bully, I wrote that in 2002 and started looking for a publisher. And I was also sharing it because I was so inspired to write that story after I realized there was such a resource gap. That was when Rachel Simmons, the author of Odd Girl Out, came to Portland and I heard her speak. She was sponsored by, at the time, the organization's now defunct, but it was Full Esteem Ahead, a nonprofit that sponsored her to give a talk. And when I realized parents were really struggling with younger children with this issue, because she was talking more about tweens and teens with the issue, but it was evident as early as preschool. I ended up contacting the founder of that nonprofit, shared with her a manuscript. I wrote the first draft in 2 weeks. It was very quick. Please know that picture books are really hard to write, and the first draft was my first foray into it. But 7 months or 8 months and 8 drafts later, I shared the story with Rachel Simmons of Odd Girl Out. She really appreciated it. At the time, she was on the board of the Ophelia Project, and they were really supportive of the project. So I was able to network and find a small press in Ashland, Oregon, who was looking to do a children's book. They did not have that. And he was waiting for a children's book, and he was personally experiencing what I was writing about. So he completely got it. And that book just took off because of the timing of the Odd Girl Out. I was very fortunate. I was in the right place at the right time. And that book led to other stories that I realized were not being addressed, that I could see play out as a volunteer in my children's school. I would teach art literacy regularly and work with the kids in the classroom. My house is near the playground. I can see the playground across the street. I live in a Leave It to Beaver neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to give voice to those kids that didn't seem to have a voice. And I wasn't naming names. I never brought that up with the reason, behind my secret bully, because I do realize that kids make mistakes. That's their job. Our job as caring adults is to turn those mistakes into teachable moments. And I didn't want to focus on the people that were doing it because, again, they were young. And I don't want to label kids. I think the Committee for Children has a wonderful thing. Bully. You don't want to label kids. You want to help them change. Bully is not a noun. Use it as a verb or an adjective, because we're all capable of wearing what I call the bully hat. We've all, had situations when someone's hurtful to us, we want to be hurtful back. It's a learned behavior. And it can be learned at home or at school or in the neighborhood. And that's what I'm trying to do, is raise awareness, bring this to the kids' attention, call it out, and tell them that, life is all about choices. You can choose to be kind. You can choose to be cruel. No child is born cruel. No child is born a racist. We learn it. And I want to raise awareness that you can learn it from poor adult role modeling, but you have a choice. You can choose to, continue that behavior from that role model, or look for role models that are helpful rather than hurtful.
So I know you do a lot of speaking around the country and you go into elementary schools, but let's go back to that first book again. You wrote it 20 years ago now, and you found a publishing company fairly close to where you're living. Do they read the manuscript? What are the steps of them going from here, read my manuscript, to it being published? Is there an illustrator involved? Do you get to oversee those choices? Tell me how those steps go.
Well, my whole journey has been rather unique. Every writer's path is unique, basically, with on the road to publishing. I went with a small press. It was more of a self-help type company. And he sent me his agreement, and I'd like to work with you. And he actually asked me, you want to help me find an illustrator. Now, do understand, with traditional presses, that's not normally the case. And it isn't today with Random House for me. And for most children's book authors, we don't have, and it's even in our contracts, we don't have the say of who they choose. Now, they can share portfolios, which is what my editor at Knopf, Books for Young Readers, she'll share, these are the artists that we're thinking of. What do you think? They're being polite, but they have the final say. Because of the nature of the stories that I write, and I have a track record with the books, and I deal with books to promote social emotional learning, illustrations are very important for me with the stories that I'm telling. So I set a precedent with the small press that I got to look at the illustrations as thumbnails and as they develop, and then final illustrations. But again, it's still up to the publisher to pick the battles of what they want to deal with the illustrator, because I'm telling a story with my words and the artist is telling a story with the pictures. So I have to be very respectful of that. And I'm in an unusual situation because most authors don't have as much say as that I can have. And even when I have them, the publisher can come back to me and say, well, which issue is more important for you? Which one can you let go? And that's fine, because I started with a small press, and then my contract with My Secret Bully, my first book, was sold to a mid press, to Tricycle Press. And then they became my publisher for about 5 or 6 years. And I had a wonderful relationship until they were bought.
Hearing the tapping of them working. Yeah, that's okay. Keep going. I can just hear in the background. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. It could have been my finger tapping.
Oh, that's probably what it was. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So Tricycle Press was wonderful. They found illustrators for me, and it just goes from there. Now with my work with Random House Children's Books, they found Patrice Barton to do the illustration for The Invisible Boy. And that was published in 2013. And I literally had to wait a year for that illustrator to actually do the work, because that was the illustrator that my publisher, my editor really wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, again, they get to pick. And so the story was sitting there complete, waiting. And I'm so glad it was worth the wait. She's a brilliant, brilliant illustrator. And I became friends with her after that book came out. And I wanted to collaborate with her on more books. And that's why I collaborated with her on Quiet Please, Owen McPhee, and then my newest book, Brave Every Day, which will be coming out this month.
So you've used the same illustrator for a few books now.
Just for a few, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Gustafson was the illustrator for my second book that came out, which was Just Kidding. He does beautiful acrylic art. And he also was the illustrator for Better Than You, a book about how boasting hurts the person on the receiving end, bragging on the receiving end, and also the person on the giving end, how it's counterproductive.
How many books are you up to now, Trudy?
Have
you lost count?
Oh no. I believe me, I know authors that have 300 books published. I'm a little pipsqueak in the scheme of things. Right. But I, with the 2 books coming out this summer, it will be 14 books.
14 books in 20 years. But they sometimes take a year or longer just to get them from manuscript to illustrated.
Right. 2 books overlapped 1 year, and now 2 books are overlapping this year. But that doesn't mean I've been, I started, for example, the one coming out in the fall, Calling the Wind. I've been working on that since 2017. Yeah. It's a long process.
Yes.
So
because you have life in the meantime, and family and children and activities and all those kinds of things. So it's not like exclusive of all that. You've got you've got stops and starts, and as a writer, I'm assuming you have to kind of be in the zone, right? To be able to have quiet time and go with the flow of your story. And the Calling of the Wind has really caught my soul. I'll put it that way. And I have no idea what it's about. I know I'll probably have to read it. I probably need a copy of The Power of One, which is what our connection is. Well,
I tell you what I will do. I will send you The Power of One. I will send you Brave Every Day and Calling the Wind when it comes out. Calling the Wind, I say that each book I write is truly a labor of love.
Right.
Calling the Wind was breech birth for me.
Was what?
Breech birth.
Reach birth.
Breech birth.
Breech birth. Okay, got it. So it has special meaning to you. I have no idea why it's resonated with me. Well, I kind of do. But don't give me any spoilers on it. I'd like to read it from beginning to end when it's ready, and I would love for you to sign it and, and maybe write some heartbeat thing in it for me, for posterity. There's just something about it that probably speaks to both of our souls. Again, I have no idea what the content of it is going to be, but I can pretty much tell it's going to speak to me from the title.
So it's just the title. That's just the title that you are basing this on.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
You didn't even read the description on the website.
No.
Wow.
And I'm all about the presentation of the title. When I make films, I title them on day one, and that title doesn't change until they're on the screen. So the title has swept into my soul.
Oh my gosh! So I have to tell you something. Okay. There's something that's connecting us, because I want to explain to you.
I'm going to try not to cry while you tell this story.
Okay.
My producer's I've never seen her cry. What's going on?
Well, what I'm going to tell you, and this is why I went to your website. This is going to sound like a mutual admiration society, but I went to a website to see what you've been doing and what your life mission is. And we're on a similar path. We really are.
Yep.
And what I want to share with you is, people ask me how to write stories, or I don't like giving writers workshops, because I can't explain what I do. I really can't. But what I will tell you is, a story is whispered to me in the title. A title comes to me. I can't start a story unless I have the title, because that serves as my anchor. It's my anchor for what I'm doing and where I'm coming. That first book, My Secret Bully, that title whispered to me at 4:00 in the morning. It woke me up, and I'm thinking, oh, that's what it's like when you have a friend. They're their friend, but they're really your secret bully, you know? And that was my anchor for how I would approach a story. Mm-hmm. Calling the wind. It's my anchor. And I won't go into that later. If you want to communicate with me after that about that book, that is the most important book that I've written.
It feels, I'm just going to say, it feels like it has roots in Native American spiritual experience of being here, you know, in the physical form. The wind for me is a calling, as is the ocean or water or most of nature. But there's something about your title that I can tell is going to really hit me in places that have never been hit before. And so nothing more needs to be said than that.
Okay.
But just looking at your face, I can see that, you know, that's going to be a big connector for us.
Yeah, it will. It will.
Yeah, no spoilers.
I can't. All I want to say is I collaborated with a wonderful artist and illustrator named Catherine Itoshi. Mm-hmm. She's the author illustrator of 1, 2, Beautiful Hands, Draw the Line, a character ed books. And we have for years wanted to collaborate on a book together. And this was the book.
This is the one.
And this is the book. And for both of us, our hearts and souls are laid open raw.
There we go.
That's all I can say.
All right. Well, I'll be sure that I'm reading that in a spot of nature. I'll go down to Inspiration Patio and read it when it arrives and connect to the wind. Let's talk about the power of one, which is how the universe brought us together. Tell me about the inception of that. What's the heartbeat in it? Give me some of the details about the power of one.
That story actually was conceived when I was writing a blog post for an online magazine called Mama Load about the invisible boy, and how it just took one person to make a kid feel less invisible in the invisible boy. And I really liked that, the power of one. And I thought, I really need to do something with that and show how, and what I wanted to do with that story. And that took a while because it was very different from the other stories I wrote. It's fewer words, different style. And I wanted also to grow creatively as a writer with my books. I didn't want to be formulaic. I wanted to learn as I go too, and also break out of a mold that I was worried my publisher was seeing me as, that I couldn't do other types of styles, but still with picture books. And I wanted this book to be more lyrical, and have a lot of breathing space with the illustrations. So my words would be one level of the story. The pictures would be another level of the story. And then together, they would bring another meta level to what was going on in the story. And sorry about that. Okay. And so what I did is I tried to think about how one can play out. And when my stories are going on, I see my stories as almost films going on in my head.
Yes.
I don't know how else to explain it. I can see frames of how it's happening. And I wanted to show in this story what empathy is. Feeling compassion for another person's pain and suffering. It's not only what it feels like to be in someone else's shoes, but feeling compassion. And you may not know what it feels like to be in that person's shoes, because you may not have had their experiences, but you need to validate that this was indeed their experience and they're entitled to their feelings, right? And then feeling compassion. So I wanted to show what empathy is in the story, and that how kindness are empathy in action. It's empathy in action. And then how multiple acts of kindness can lead to community action and social justice. That's a big order for a little book.
That's a good point, yes.
It's a big order. And and I do want to share, because I love this quote by, she was a retired librarian. She's an author of this wonderful book where she describes picture books as big ideas in small packages.
Nice.
And that's truly what they are, big
Yes.
ideas in small packages. So I had in my head this vision of a child being hurt emotionally by another child, and only one child saw it happen in a group and only noticed it. And that child was a stranger. And then what happens if she reaches out to that other child that's been hurt? How could things happen? And the illustrator, Mike Corrado, who's brilliant, he took it, he had a metaphor going on throughout the whole time of a plant being, seeded, because my whole concept was this child was being hurt. Together they do some acts. It leads to more kids getting involved, and to the point where the kids in the community create a community garden out of a landfilled area. And then they provide food in that community for the community to enjoy. So they all work together. So that's what I was trying to show, is when we come together, we can create something beautiful. But the other thing I wanted to show is I didn't want to demonize the kid who was being hurtful, and how can he make up for the hurt he caused another? And so I take the lessons I've learned in my previous books and incorporated it in The Power of One. I wrote the book Sorry, which is about insincere apologies. And in my research, I learned that from Dr. Aaron Lazarn, who was a specialist in this area, that an insincere apology is worse than no apology at all. And it's more important for people to show they're sorry, not just say they're sorry. And so I wanted to take that lesson that I learned when I was writing Sorry into this book too, by showing the kid that was hurtful, what can he do to give back to the community and become part of the community again? So there were these layers going on in the story.
It's a lot.
And that one,
it's a lot. In a short format like that. So I'm sure you're very protective of every word.
I actually had to be. It was more like writing a lyrical poem for me. What I loved is one may seem, and this is how I started, one may seem like a small and lonely number, but don't let this little number fool you. One is a lot bigger and more powerful than you think. One, after all, is the starting point for change. And think about it. Whatever's big movements has started with one person.
Don't you think it's just amazing that we're speaking today? And that the way we connected randomly, which is how everybody connects, but how aligned our journeys are for two women that are in different parts of the country. I'm not sure I've ever met anyone quite as aligned with the spiritual journey that I've been on than you at this moment. And your audience is children, which that's a very emotional fact. Yeah. Yes and no.
Yes and no. Because I'm a sneaky. I'm actually having the title of a children's author, but I'm teaching character ed not only to kids, but also to adults.
Teachers. Yeah.
And to the parents. I do parent workshops on promoting empathy. And I also do with professional developments for school districts and for schools, individual schools, because I believe this is a community issue that must be dealt on a community level. Adults like reading books with kids. Right. So I want to teach the adults who are working with the kids that these are issues, and you are being the role model. What are you doing that's reinforcing helpful or hurtful behaviors? And
words matter.
They have the power to build up or break down the human spirit.
Yep. And speaking of that, Trudy, sort of the underlying heartbeat of the podcast is kindness. And if you were to describe to an audience, different levels, doesn't matter, defining kindness, how would you do that?
Kindness would be acknowledging another person. We're concretizing kindness. That's what we're doing here. It's like a word. So what does that mean? Kindness to me is treating someone as if they have value, because they have value. Lifting other people up when they're feeling down. to me, that's a form of kindness. Kindness doesn't mean you have to be a superhero or do superhero acts or risk your own safety. It's just reaching out, including the person in your activities, groups, or games. I mean, it's a fact of life. We're not all going to be included, but it's how it's done, or excluded. It's how it's done. Kindness is also saying wonderful things or positive things about a person to their face and behind their back.
Sincerely.
This is to me is walking the walk with your words and actions, in doing and being good and being the light in other people's darkness.
Which is, 365 days a year, there's somebody that would benefit, not just them, but you as well. It's a two-way street, is
right.
Extending kindness and receiving kindness.
And, there's a science behind kindness, the science of kindness, that you release endorphins when you perform acts of kindness, and it becomes addictive, just like a runner. You get that high. And so what we want to do is get kids to perform acts of kindness, because it makes you feel good and makes the other person feel good. Yeah. And then you want to keep doing it. And that's what we want to do. This is the only addiction that I would recommend is kindness.
Besides ice cream. Besides ice cream for me. Kindness, I love that as a concept, is the addiction of kindness. I think that could be a whole sort of marketing thing there, and go and be viral. I mean, obviously, my network, which we've built for years, is like-minded people and folks that are on sort of a similar journey about caring about lifting up humanity in our short period of time that we're here, and picking and choosing our actions and our words and our relationships and all that kind of thing. I am going to ask you, one of the things we're going to do together today, Trudy, is two things. One is we're going to co-create a My Power of One word together that will go on the brand because of our conversation today, one that we don't already have. By the way, I'm wearing Create today on your behalf because you are a creative. You're an author. And the other thing we're going to do today is co-create a random act of kindness that we can invite our audience into. So as we chit-chat, if there's a word that's resonating with you, that you've utilized in your, the sort of the vein of what you've done for 20 years, let's explore that to put into and it seems like I wrote down a couple of words when I was doing research on you. I think, hang on a minute. I found two words that I really liked. Oh, here we are. Inclusive, obviously, and dignity. I really like the word dignity. I do too. Those are two words that I found attached to you, and if there's another one that you would like to include, we're going to do one word together that will forever be in the brand because of our conversation today. Well, I actually, when it's on social media, it's one word as a hashtag, but it's technically two words. But my message that I keep repeating over and over is that I'm recruiting kindness warriors. Kindness warriors. Yes. Okay. Kindness warriors. I'm trying to show that we need more people to battle hurtful behaviors. Gotcha. And they can do it with kindness and reach out. And so what I say, I'm just kindness warriors unite is what I've been doing. That's what you've been using for a tagline. Yeah. Yeah. What about a random act of kindness? As I was speaking with my earlier guest today, my favorites are anonymous random acts of kindness. But what about with all the speaking you do in the schools and different age brackets? Is there a random act of kindness we can co-create today that whoever listens to this podcast could be invited into having that opportunity? Boy, I gotta think about that. Yeah, that's a big order. It is. For right then, I think I need to think about that and get back to you on that. That's fine. Yeah. Well, as we continue to talk, we talked about The Power of One, which is the book that spurred my attention. Go ahead. I just thought of something. You thought of it. Oh, look at that! I just look how quick you are. And it's very
it's appropriate for who I am and what I do.
I like it.
I think that random acts of kindness is, I think what they should do is leave new books, maybe children's stories, out in some place, like on a coffee table at a restaurant. Leave it there with a little note. Say if it's a restaurant, this is for you to give, or, or just when you're in line somewhere, maybe getting a coffee or something, you hand the book and tell them to give it to the next car.
Pass it forward kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yes. Have them donate. They can also do that with schools. Schools are really in need of books.
Okay.
Get some new children's books and donate to the schools.
That's a great one.
There are children that don't even have books at their home.
Yes.
So all you have to do is contact the schools or a school district to find out which ones are Title I schools. Title I schools are schools where a lot of kids are on free reduced lunch and they're on survival mode. And so a book can help them lose themselves. So I would recommend also doing that with the schools.
That's a great
just saying
idea.
we'd like to donate some books.
Love that idea. And an easy one to do, too. We put up in our little town of Mound City a little free library.
Right.
Yeah, and that was my Christmas gift to myself from my husband that year. And so we put, we feed that with children's books in all different age brackets, but it's just a great community thing to have for, passing things back and forth amongst people. So my producer is showing me 2 words that we've talked about today that could be good words for the brand. Empathy is one. It's already in the brand, by the way. Mm-hmm. And teachable is another one. And I actually really like the word teachable as well.
I like teachable.
Teachable is good too. Yeah, because as you can see, the way the logo is, we only have so much space for, a word across here. So, and the brand started in 2014 on my 60th birthday, and we probably now have 150 words or so that we can continue to put in.
Teachable.
Teachable is good. Yeah, I think we'll go with teachable. And then we've got our random act of kindness is going to be donating books to schools. What do you think about that?
That's how it ties in with teachable, right? You're dealing with the academics and donating to those. And really, there are schools that don't even have enough library books on their bookshelves.
Good point. Yeah. In 2016, my husband and I did a 48-state tour, and we did random acts of kindness around the country. And in Milwaukee, we collected books across the country, and we took and donated to a school like you're talking about 600 books. And we were able to deliver those books and sit and read with the kids. And it was just, it's just like, what else can you say about that, connecting with young people like that and leaving behind, a book. I've got one more question for you. My producer's keeping me on line here. On the word teachable, Trudy, what color is teachable?
Oh, see, my favorite color is blue, what you're wearing right now.
That's all we need. That's all we need. Blue it is. Yep. All right. So I'll be putting in.
You know what kind of blue? Not a navy blue. It's a bright,
like royal blue,
like a Tiffany blue.
Tiffany blue. Okay. So obviously with Photoshop, I can pick any kind of blue I want, and the word teachable is going to be going into the brand this weekend. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. She's giving me a pen. Is going to be going into the brand on behalf of our podcast today. In the color of what was the blue she said?
It's Tiffany
blue.
The blue that I wear in my author photo. You'll see it.
Okay,
it's that blue. It's a bright, saturated, happy blue.
That's the color blue.
That's her book.
Huh?
Her book is blue.
All right, it's the color. Yeah, the Power of One has got a blue cover. So that's what we're putting in the brand on behalf of our conversation today is the word teachable and a Tiffany blue. I'll probably have that in the brand by this weekend. We talked about the definition of kindness. We co-created an activity together, which is donating books for schools in general, Trudy, or elementary schools. What do you think?
I think elementary schools.
Okay.
I think young kids need to have that.
Okay, here's a question for you, and we've got about 15 minutes. If you could choose one of your books, one of your 14 books, to be required reading in schools, what would it be and why? Just one.
I would have to say probably. This is so hard. I would say The Invisible Boy, because each issue, it's like asking an author what their favorite book is. It's like asking a parent who their favorite child is. So you're asking me that one book, because they each deal with really important things. But I have to say The Invisible Boy, and I can explain why if you'd like to know.
Yes, please do.
That book has hit a universal chord in so many people. That is by far my biggest selling book. And I think it's because everyone at some point in their lives have felt invisible as a child or as an adult, intentionally or unintentionally excluded. And what that shows is how just one person just reaching out, seeing you, appreciating you, can transform that other person's life.
Indeed.
And I think readers who have never felt that way can learn to see through the story and how it unfolds. Oh boy, that's not good to feel invisible. I need to pay attention to those invisible kids. And then the kids who feel invisible feel like they have a voice now that can be heard.
Mm-hmm. You published your first book in 2002, or that was your foray into...
Well, I wrote it in 2002.
Okay, got it.
It was actually published in 2004. It takes a while.
So 2002 was sort of the beginning of this journey of writing children's books. And I went to film school in 2002. I was 48 at the time, and my first film was about our nation's homeless. And one of the things I heard from coast to coast, I traveled through 15 cities to meet our nation's homeless, was that they feel invisible. Whatever their stories is, for whatever reason they're on a street corner or living under a bush or whatever, is people pass them by and look away, walk across a block or whatever, but they felt invisible. And obviously they're adults at this point, and whatever took them to that state. But it's an important reminder for all of us that every human soul, that walks the face of the earth or ever has, matters. And then, we talked about listening and compassion and all those things that connects us to others as an important ingredient to, I love what you said about the endorphins of kindness. And I was a runner for 40 years, and probably the reason was because of the endorphin kick. And then now, I'm on this journey of kindness, and it's probably the same. It's the same thing. It's just easier on my body. Yeah. So I love that.
Low impact.
Yeah, exactly.
Low impact physically, high impact emotionally.
My knees appreciate it and all of that. And but I so appreciate your audience, which is what's the youngest that you've sat in front of to read books and to have a conversation? Preschool, really?
Preschool.
4, 5, 4.
Yeah, sometimes 3, 4. But I prefer, my sweet spot is kindergarten, actually through 8th grade.
Really?
I present, a lot of picture books are actually being used through middle school.
Interesting.
Because they're big ideas in small packages.
Yes.
And one of my picture books that I wrote is very popular for middle schoolers, because it's based on the true story of a Holocaust teen survivor.
Wow.
And I wanted to get his message out that was crucial. It's timely and timeless. That there are the kind and the cruel in every group of people, and how someone treats you is far more important than who they are.
Yeah. You travel around, I see, and you speak to schools and community organizations. Tell me how people get to you, Trudy, how they find. I know you've got your website, obviously, social media you're on. Give us a little contact information for you if someone would like to reach out for where your books are available and things like that?
Well, they can go to my website, www.trudy, Trudy, Ludwig, Ludwig.com.
Okay.
They'll find on my website, especially on the cover slideshow of the books that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And they can click on it to read descriptions about it, reviews about the books. I also have great resources on my website for people that want more information. I have recommended readings from preschool to young adult, fiction and nonfiction, to promote empathy and healthy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a list of websites and organizations so people can connect that way. There are tips, tools, and resources that are available there too. More information, bullying basics, more information about what I share on what is bullying and what it isn't. So they can contact me at Trudy Ludwig, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter,
Reach
Pinterest.
out to you if they have an interest for you coming to speak at their organization.
So if they have that interest, they will send me the inquiry, and then I forward their inquiry if it's for schools or conferences.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for schools primarily. I forward it to my representative at Penguin Random House, and they provide all that information, my presentation offerings, my fees,
right,
and my availability.
Over. Okay. Well,
so I still do school visits in person
mm-hmm.
and virtual, depending on the state of our country.
Let's say a new writer, and we've got about 5 minutes, but a new writer that's got an idea. 20 years ago, you were starting on your first book. Let's talk a bit about advice you might give, Trudy, for someone that has a story that they want to tell. What advice would you give them for seeing that become a reality?
Is this for an adult?
Let's say yes, it is. Let's start with that.
So for an adult, I would highly recommend that person become a member of the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. That's scbwi.org. It's a national, international organization, and anybody who has been published is primarily a member. I'm a member. The membership fee, I think the initial fee is $90 and then $85 every year thereafter. That's where you can learn to hone your writing skills, polish your manuscript, form critique groups, go to conferences and meet with established literary agents and publishing houses. You can make pitches to them. If they like what they see, it could come down into a contract. I cannot recommend scbwi.org. In fact, they even have regional SCBWI. So depending on where you live, you can check which state is closest to you, and then you become a member of their local too. So it's phenomenal.
Awesome
that is
advice.
The most important starting point.
Okay. And networking with people that have
definitely
like-minded.
Networking
Mm-hmm.
with the people.
Okay.
I mean, you're going to find your tribe.
I would totally agree with that. And on social media, I mean, you and I have been doing this for 20 years, so we've seen a lot of changes in the way the world works and marketing and all of that. And lots of groups on social media, too, that you can be connected to, or even in city by city, there's probably groups. And have you been to Kansas City?
I have, but it's been many years.
Okay.
I was there once for a school. I was on a Midwest tour, and I was there. I can't even remember the year, to be honest with you. It becomes a blur. I've been doing this for so many years.
Any states you have not been to yet?
Well, that's a good question. Wow. I have to think about that. I haven't been to Delaware or New Hampshire or Maine.
Okay.
Really? I've been to Connecticut and Massachusetts. I haven't been to Maryland, although I lived there as a child, part of my childhood. That's a tough one. I haven't gone to, I want to say, I've been to Georgia, Kentucky. You know what? I think I've done a lot. I haven't been to Alaska. I haven't been to Hawaii.
Okay.
That would be kind of nice.
Got a few to go still. So would you have something in the pike? Do you have something that you're working on for other than the couple that are coming out this fall?
I'm actually working on those right now because
I
there's a
see.
lot to be done
Okay.
on that, and I don't have the bandwidth creatively when I'm also still presenting. I'm still doing
Right.
presentations,
Yeah.
and I have to travel.
Now that
So,
COVID is kind of at the back end, you able to do
it
that
really
again?
is at the back end, and so I just need to focus on these two books and also updating my presentations so that
Yeah.
I'm current with the information I'm
Yeah.
presenting.
Yeah. Well, possibly my most important question before we wrap is this. Are you a Grammy yet?
No.
All right. Well, I'm going to warn you. I'm going to warn you that when that happens, life changes forever.
Oh,
So I have a 4-year-old grandson, Miles, and I probably bring him up in about every podcast, don't I? Boy, that kid. When you become a Grammy, and you get to choose your name at that time, life will never be the same. So I'm going to give you that to look forward to.
thank you.
Because you and I have had experienced extraordinary life journeys, right? And we've seen our dreams become reality, and we're not done yet. But the Grammy thing, that's a level by which there's no words that I can put around it to let you know, to give you a little heads up on that. So,
Well, that's also helping you fuel the fire in your heart for what you need to do.
it's changed everything. So,
Yep.
well, I appreciate our time together. I look forward to the important books that you're going to send me. I'd be glad to purchase them or send me a link for them.
Just email me your mailing address.
I will. I will do
It's
that.
going to be a little while before I get the books. I still haven't gotten
Yes.
the books that are coming out for this month. So,
And again, people can find you social media or Trudy Lud. I don't know why I have so
Ludwig.
much trouble with your last name. Good God, it's not really a tongue twister. Ludwig.com. They can get to you. Your books are available on Amazon too, are they not?
yeah, they're available wherever
Everywhere?
books.
Okay.
Yeah, online or offline. Indie stores. If they're not on the shelves, they can order them for you to pick up.
Yep.
I mean,
And you
let's
have some
support
kind of
movies.
representation of some sort, Trudy, do you?
No, I actually don't.
Okay.
I'm an anomaly. I do
Yeah.
not have an agent. I've never had an agent.
Same with me. Yeah.
I just I don't know if I'm I think I may
Independent
be
souls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I guess
Or
so.
we know how to do it ourselves. I don't know.
I don't know.
what
I
it is.
think we're very intuitive people.
There
I
we
think
go.
that we just
And we're
we
smart.
have to.
We're smart, right?
Well, I would also say we
Resourceful.
are in tune. We are in tune with our gut feelings.
Yeah.
And try to go through life
Yeah.
honoring them.
Yes, agree. You know, and I think projects find us. You know, they come through our soul, and they
Yeah.
tap on our shoulders, and they say, "Hey, you know, power of one or whatever it is," and we are tuned into that. We know that that's the formula for our journey of expansion and you know, living our best life, I think. But I appreciate you. I knew that we would love visiting together, and I hope we get to meet in person sometime.
That would be lovely.
On the coast of Oregon would be my preference. There's some pretty good
In the
ice cream
summer,
over
not
there.
the winter.
No, that's true. Not during the fog and all of that. So I'd like to wrap by saying this is the Wizard of One, a magical journey of kindness, brought to you by My Power of One and Heartland Films. Trudy Ludwig has been our guest today, author. We have co-created a word together and a random act of kindness together. So we've accomplished a lot, don't you think, in the last hour?
I think so.
Yeah.
Synchronicity here.
Yeah, I can tell that we could be sisters very easily. So have a fabulous day, and I'll reach out to you later today with all the important stuff.
Thank you
All right,
so much.
take
It was
care.
a pleasure, and thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you, Trudy. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.